Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. It is February 22nd at 6 p.m. This is the Infrastructure Advisory Oversight Board, and I'd like to call it to order. Since this is the first meeting with this board, we're just going to go around and if you could just introduce yourself briefly, that would be fantastic, and then we'll go ahead and do roll call. So David, would you mind starting?
Yes, David Jones. Is there any particular information you're looking for?
No, that's okay. Just, what you're here for and that kind of thing.
Oh, David Jones. Grew up here in Palm Bay, so I'm really excited to be a part of this board.
Terry Mueller. I didn't grow up in Palm Bay, but most of my two kids growing up here for most of their lives came from Texas, and saw it as a great opportunity and wanted to get involved with the community and its development. So I'm happy to be here with you guys.
My name's Thomas Gom. I have 5 generations of family that live here in Palm Bay. I've ran for city council twice. I've sat on this board for the last 2 years. Ran the petition committee that overturned the stormwater assessments and then turned around and went for a road bond. So I kind of conflicted myself there with those two things. But like I said, I've been here 2 years, but I've been active in the city far longer than that. Thank you.
My name is Anne Marie Fraser. I recently relocated here to the city from South Florida about 2 years ago. I have public procurement background, so that's a good situation for why I'm here, just to be able to get my feet wet, get involved in the city. Happy to be here as well.
Hi, I'm Rebecca T. Bear. I grew up in Brevard County and have been in Palm Bay since 2007. I currently also serve on the Community Development Advisory Board. I am the assistant to the city manager for the city of Melbourne, so work with a lot of infrastructure projects. So I thought it would be interesting to serve on this board as well.
Other
My-
side of the fence.
Yeah.
My name is Pat Woodard. I've an old resident that's been here for a long time, have a lot of history. I currently work now for the county. I'm a work for a county commissioner as a legislative extent form. So looking forward to this. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, guys. All right, we'll go ahead and go through the roll call really quick. Paul Edwards is absent. Anne Marie Fraser,
Here.
Thomas Gom,
Present.
David Jones,
Here.
Terry Mueller,
Here.
Rebecca Tybert,
Present.
Patrick Woodard.
Here. Thank you.
All right, great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jennifer Cocroft, our Deputy City Attorney, and she's going to go through a review of our Sunshine Law.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Am I on? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Hi there. So you all got to introduce yourself, so I'm going to take the opportunity as well. My name is Jennifer Cockcroft. I actually grew up and live in Osceola County. I've been a city attorney in some sort of fashion since 2004. I've represented about 12 cities, including Sanford, Mount Dora, Kissimmee, Oviedo, DeLand. So quite a few cities around Central Florida. I've been here just about 2 years. So tonight I'm here to talk to you about Sunshine Law. I'm also going to hit some of the other ethics areas, just so you have a broad understanding. A lot of you have been involved in government for a long time, different sorts of, sides of the fence. And so you may or may know not a lot of this already. So we'll go ahead and get started then. You can just follow along with me. We're going to talk about ethics and law tonight. And this will apply to all Florida citizen advisory boards. Like Mr. Gom said, you may come to find it useful at some point in time later should you decide to be on the city council or another advisory board, which is a decision-making board versus an advisory board. And I'll talk about those things as well. So we get our basis in law from the statutes and also the Florida Constitution. The basis of the Sunshine Law comes out of the Constitution. But tonight, like I said, we're going to be talking about code of ethics. Am I eating the mic enough there for you? Okay, great. Public records law, Sunshine Law, and a little bit on quasi-judicial versus quasi-legislative. So code of ethics, basically, why do we need it? We want our public officials to be independent. We don't want you to be influenced by others. We want you to not use your office for public gain. We don't want your quote vote to be bought. We want to make sure you take all your actions in the public interest. Why should you be concerned? Because you can face penalties. Those can be civil or criminal. You wouldn't like that. Nobody wants to go to jail for something like this. You also don't want to lose money out of your bank account for work you're doing for the public. You can be removed from office. You can face public censure. Just, not good things. So, things you should not do. Ask for or accept gifts. Should not enter contracts with your agency. Should not let anyone pay you for your vote. You shouldn't misuse your position. You should not have conflicting employment. An example would be working for two governments. It's just off the top of my head. You should keep things confidential to the extent they are, while knowing that a lot of this stuff is mainly public record. Nepotism, employing relatives is frowned upon. There's also some post-employment restrictions if you were a city council member, potentially. Dual office holding, that would apply if you were on a decision-making board. You shouldn't be on the city council and also, for example, a planning board. You shouldn't be a magistrate and be a city council member. There's certain offices you just shouldn't have two of. You shouldn't be the sheriff and you shouldn't be the clerk of court. That makes sense? Also, you should be present for your voting. So, topics of concern, required disclosures, gifts, honorary, and conflict of interest. So, what are you required to disclose? If you run a campaign, for example, city council, you have to keep records of it. If anybody gives you a gift, you should keep record of it. And if you're required to fill out the financial form 1, that's a state of Florida form, and you will be given that if you're required to fill it out for whatever board that you're on, if applicable. Conflict of interest, we'll go over that a little bit more in detail. So just briefly, gifts, don't take them. Make it simple. Certain rules for gifts over a certain amount. Generally, everything over 100 is going to be prohibited. 25 and under is a little bit grayer area. Just like T-shirts and things like that might be okay, but just generally stay away from taking anything from anyone, particularly when it's related to your seat here at the table.
Even lunch.
Even lunch, particularly if they try to take you to Capitol Grill or something, because it's definitely going to be over $25. So this will be a good guideline for you guys to keep. A lot of these things I won't cover in detail, but I gave you the handout so that you can keep it with you for the future. If you ever have any questions, also feel free to reach out. Honor area is if you go give a speech and somebody gives you just like a token of their respect, but sometimes those things can be valuable. So you have to be careful. So I would, look out for those things. So if you, sometimes they can be okay, but generally it's just something that you should stay away from if you can. If you have any questions, if you're on city council or other, other boards and it comes up, city attorney's office is always available to help you figure it out. So conflict of interest, that's a situation where your private interest may conflict with your public interest. When you're sitting here at the table, you're representing not just yourself, you're representing all the city's residents, all the citizens of Palm Bay. So you have to think about your role here in that regard. So when you act, you should always make sure that you don't have your own financial interests at heart rather than what's in the public interest. And that's the reason for the conflict of interest law. So if you do have a financial interest in something that's coming before a board, and it could happen potentially with this board if someone has a role, if they work for a contractor, Junior Davis or something, just for not to throw Junior under the bus, but just those
He's been there
things.
before.
No comment. Did grow up in Osceola County, but so if you did have to abstain from voting, then there's generally only times you would abstain from voting is if you have a financial interest or you can't be impartial, and I'll go over that later, but you'll have a form, and if you did abstain, then you have to fill out that form and file it with the state within 15 days. So conflict of interest, incompatible employment is defined a little bit better when it would interfere with the proper discharge of your duties, disclosing confidential information. Not going to happen too often, like I said. Only like with public bidding potentially, but you all won't be subjected to that. Representing private interest before the city agency, as I said, you shouldn't be representing private interest in any action or proceeding against the interests of the city. Contracts with the city, if you have a substantial interest, like I said, in a financial interest, then you also should abstain from voting, as that would be the typical definition of a financial conflict. And then if you have litigation with the city, you would have to disclose that. If that would happen, you would have to disclose that in discussions with the council, but that's later on if you run a different board. So moving on to public records. So public records is very broad in the state of Florida. The state has a very significant interest in the public's right to public records. The Sunshine Law is very comprehensive in Florida. I practiced in Georgia previously, and it was nowhere as broad. Everything here is almost everything is going to be public record. There's the notes you take during this meeting, public record. You write it down, you think it's a draft? No, it's public record. You know, anything and everything almost is going to be public record. Texts, emails, anything. So if you're texting regarding city business, you need to keep it. It needs to be turned into whoever your designated city liaison is and kept. So that includes all documents, papers, letters, maps, books, tapes, as you see. Pretty much everything made or received in connection with the transaction of official business. Now, if you guys are talking about going to lunch, that's different. But if you're talking about anything that's about this board or any other boards you might be on, then it's related to city business and it would be public record. So, and this includes all city advisory boards. Any questions on that? Okay. So hitting Sunshine Law specifically, it applies to all elected and appointed members of the city board and agencies. And what it means is a meeting of two members of the same board must be, quote, in the sunshine. That means you can't have outside discussion on board matters. Now you can go to meetings held by other people, but if more than two of you are going to be there, it has to be noticed. So meetings of you or your board has to be published to the public so that they know when you're going to meet, what you're going to meet about, and they have the right to comment, and it has to be recorded. Those are the basic elements of a public meeting to be, quote, in the sunshine. So if during a meeting, say I'm here with you, and a couple of you guys start whispering between each other, it's not going to make me happy or any other city attorney happy. So if I'm in my planning board and a couple of them start talking, I have to look over at them and, you know, or city council, anywhere I'm at. If you guys started whispering, we're just going to assume the worst, sorry. Because this camera is recording, these mics are on, and everybody's going to assume the worst, unfortunately. So we have to act like, we have to be on our best behavior at all times when we're public servants, whether we're employees or we're on the advisory boards. So just please don't talk about it unless you've got this mic on and you're right here talking to each other so everybody can hear you. So is it a meeting? Well, it's only technically if it relates to foreseeable action that may be taken by the board. It doesn't include social gatherings where issues that may become the board are not discussed. Now, for example, one of my cities used to have a luncheon for its advisory boards annually. Was it a meeting where issues, were going to be decided upon? No, but you got a whole lot of board members there, and the temptation would be overwhelming to not be talking about city business. So just know, like I said, people are going to assume the worst. So do your best not to talk about it, not to meet. Like, don't leave my CRA board meeting and go to dinner together. It just looks bad. And your citizens are going to, suspect the worst of you. So for a meeting, like I said, the board must be, reasonable public notice must have been given of the meeting. Sometimes there can be an emergency when we have hurricanes, things like that. Notice can be shortened to 24 hours potentially. And like I said, generally, though, you're going to have to post the time and the place of meeting. give good notice, which is generally a lot more than 24, but, and then we always have to have minutes taken of a meeting. So moving on to ex parte communication. So the other thing that we city attorneys don't like is when you talk about things that are coming before the board without everybody else hearing them. We're going to presume that what you're talking about is what's, coming before the board. So we're going to just automatically presume that it's harmful. The city does have an ordinance that can remove that presumption, but I think recently they're changing the policy that they want to cut out all ex parte. So ex parte means when you're talking off the record. For example, if a judge had somebody in with one side and not the other. So if you're talking without the public, it's ex parte. Does that make sense? So what happens for the meeting, if you have had a conversation, if somebody has come up to you, has sent you a letter, has sent you an email, what you need to do is say, pardon me, I need to disclose an ex parte. I talked to David Smith before the meeting, and this is what we talked about and when and where, and just disclose it all. That's how you remove the presumption that it was bad.
I have a question about that.
Good.
Like I go to the bid openings a lot and the contractors are there and inevitably you talk about the project. That should be disclosed, right?
If it's something that's going to come before you to be decided upon, yeah. Mhm.
Well, no, we don't get involved in the contracts
Okay,
or
well then
anything.
if it's not,
We're
if it's-
earlier in the process.
yeah, well, if you're not going to make a decision on it, then no, you wouldn't have to technically, but if you're going to be taking any action on it, then yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, like I said, that would include written communications, emails, texts, anything you got, or oral conversations. The other thing presumed to be bad is a site visit. We don't like for you to go wandering around and looking at things unless you disclose it. Because when you make a decision in the public interest, everybody should have the same information. We want you all to have, we don't want Terry to have gone out and looked at it, and saw one thing, whereas Tom didn't see the same thing. Maybe it was different on the next day. So what we want you to make your decisions on are all the same information. So if you're taking site visits, you're getting information that somebody else didn't have. So if you did do that, your obligation is to disclose it into the record before the meeting or the decision is held. Any questions on that? All right, public comment, you all understand that, I'm quite sure. So we have to allow people to talk about things that are going to come before us. We have to let them be heard, but we are allowed to impose reasonable time limits. Usually it's about 3 minutes. Some boards do, some boards don't. The chair can ask for a certain person to represent a group. You can ask that they don't repeat themselves. You can make reasonable limitations. You don't have to have meetings that last until 1 a.m. But so quasi judicial, however, you can't limit as much. There's certain ways those have to be held. They're almost like court proceedings a little bit. So when you make a decision as a board, your board may be a little different, but you'll usually have staff recommendations. And for example, planning board, the planning staff and public works staff know their stuff. Basically, they're the experts. They're the ones that are trained in engineering or planning or whatnot. So whenever they give you a recommendation, it's based on their education, and they're generally considered experts in their fields. That's why they're hired, and that's why they're working on behalf of the public. So when you make your decisions, particularly planning boards or other boards like that, you have to make your decision based on the law and the code of the statute. You can't just base it on you don't like it. Not, I don't like it. That you can't use fairness, and it's not fair, and we just don't like it. You have to have criteria, because property owners have rights to develop, and you have to follow that criteria, because if it's not, then it'll be overturned, and then we have to go to court, and then we have to pay the citizens money towards lawyers and litigation, and don't get to spend it on other types of things that we need to do on behalf of the city. So there are different types of hearing. Generally, all hearings will require due process. That means notice and opportunity to be heard. That's what I talked about, publishing hearings and giving the public an opportunity to come speak. Any questions? I'm not going to hit too much on quasi judicial versus legislative. You guys won't be making,
We're not closet.
yeah, so, but just things for the future. If you ever end up on one of those boards, it's here. Notice opportunity to be heard. You've already talked about most of this stuff. There's a record, sworn testimony. If you ever end up on any other boards, this might be helpful to you. Quasi legislative, I'm just going to skip over most of this. And that's basically it. Now here's a Robert's Rules cheat sheet for any of you that are new to citizen advisory boards. I find it helpful. Many of you may have been on other boards, maybe you haven't, but I find this a useful cheat sheet for Robert's Rules and running meetings. And then, oops, that one's sideways. Also some ways on handling motions, just basic meeting, if you're a new member to boards, I find these helpful. And then the other, sorry, it's sideways, but your papers should be okay in your packet that you got. Anybody new to boards? Y'all been on citizen advisory boards before? Is everybody?
No.
Yes. Anybody hasn't?
I'm new.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe you find that, I'm sure your other more experienced seasoned board members can help you out. And staff is always here as well. And then the next thing is the Code of Ethics for Public Officials, and that's issued by the City of Palm Bay, and that's basically a reiteration of everything else that I've gone over. And at this point, I will take any questions. We good? So like I said, again, my name is Jennifer Cockcroft. I'm available to you if you guys have any questions, and I'll be sitting in with you tonight. I don't know that I'll be here much after tonight, unless Frank needs me.
You're always welcome.
Always welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer.
No problem. My pleasure.
Paul, is that you that came in?
Yes.
All right, so you're right here if you want to go ahead and take your seat before we move on. So the next item is public comment. Don, did you have a public comment?
Yes.
Jennifer, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm kicked out.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So am I kicked out literally? Do you need me for the rest of the meeting or?
Unless people have other questions, I don't think we do.
I say you're free to go.
You're welcome to stay, but if you'd like to get home to your family, you're more than welcome to.
I'll stick around.
Don Jordan, 2141 Madden Avenue, Palm Bay. On November 3rd, the city council, under new business, had a item, number 3, consideration of an engineering assessment of Unit 49 road paving to determine the construction cost and funding impact to advance Unit 49 to year 3 of the road paving program. So that was the item, and it was turned into a motion, which passed by the city council. So that directed a determination of the construction cost and funding impact, because there was concern about the deep sand in Unit 49 on Madden Avenue and the other roads in that area.
Don, I apologize, but phase 3 is actually an agenda item. So public
That's not what
comments,
he's, I don't believe that's what he's
is
doing.
it not?
Is what?
Phase
It's
3?
It's on the item. It's on the agenda tonight. It is on the agenda
It is on the agenda?
It is.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I haven't seen the agenda.
tonight. But it's like this. It's phase 3.
So public comments are for non-agenda items. Once we get to that, there is a time for
Right,
each.
correct.
Yes. So once we get to the agenda
You
item
can
for
continue
phase
it.
3, no, business 4, number 4. then we'll open it up for public comment on that agenda item. That this is only for non-agenda items.
Okay, well, you have an opportunity to speak after when that item is up. Okay.
I'm sorry, Don. I didn't realize. All right, so the next item, the first order of business is election of a chairperson and vice chairperson. Is there anybody that would like to elect somebody else or themselves to be the chairperson of this board?
Hi, Stephanie. I would like to elect Patrick Woodward to be the chair.
Thank you very much, but please let me not be nominated.
Okay.
Thank you, though. I do appreciate that. But if you'd like to be chairman, I certainly can nominate you back.
Oh, no, that's okay. No, I just looking at experience.
Or Tom, how about Tom?
I have no problems with it. I've ran the Chamber of Commerce, so I've ran meetings before, and that's all it really is just another position on the board.
Whoever's chairman isn't one that takes position of the meeting anyway, so.
I have one other, like, come in. Oh, then I also would then turn to Rebecca. Hi.
Hi.
Then I would also nominate Rebecca as well
As chairperson or
as
vice?
chairperson.
Okay. All right, does anybody have a motion for one or the other, either Rebecca Tybart or Thomas Gom?
I already made a motion for Tom off the beginning,
Okay,
so
okay, do we have a second?
you know
for
somebody else
Tom?
I'll
wanted it.
second for Tom.
Okay. All right, and then vote? Yay or nay?
For what person?
For Thomas Gom as the chairperson?
All in favor?
All
That's
in,
what
oh,
you-
thank you, thank you, all in favor?
All in-
Aye.
All right, and so it passes. Thomas Gom will be the chairperson.
Can we make you the vice chair?
Sure.
And then a
Second.
motion. Second.
Works good.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so at
Perfect.
this point, Tom, I actually turn it over to you. Do you have the agenda that
I
you
do.
can run off of?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, review of the bylaws. I'm guessing that goes to you, Stephanie.
Yeah, I mean, I can go over some of the high points on it and
Sure.
then we just, do a
Can you
motion.
email the present set of bylaws out?
I believe I did this morning.
I didn't.
I didn't get them.
Was it not in this morning's email?
No, there was
No. I think
three things.
3 documents, but
Yeah.
duplicates. I think you probably made them.
It didn't come through.
Oh, I apologize. I can get that out. So the only difference between the set that Therese sent out last month and this month is the sunset date. That was the only thing that went to council was the sunset date. So I can go over the main provisions of that. And if we have any questions, we can go through that. And if we need to bring it back next month, we can too. And I'll send them out.
Could we table that until the next meeting then, so everybody has received them?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we can do that. Absolutely.
Do you need a motion to table
Please.
them? I'll make a motion to table the review of the bylaws to the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Pass unanimous. Consideration of regular meeting dates and times. I'll just start by saying up till a few months ago, we met at 7:00 on the last Monday of every month. I don't know how that works out for everybody. I'm retired. I'm one step beyond flexible, so that's fluid.
And once everything is settled in chambers, this will normally be held in the chambers.
Right.
I make a motion for maybe the last Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m.
I have a conflict on Tuesday, unfortunately. Sorry.
I also have a conflict on Tuesday.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Well, we can keep the Monday just returning to that 7 p.m. versus the 6 p.m.
Fine with that.
Oh, wait.
It's in the bylaws right now, what is it in the bylaws right now?
Time period.
The time is not listed in the
Yeah, it's
bylaws.
only the time. Let me help clarify again. Again, Frank Watanabe, the Director of Public Works. Your date has already been predetermined. The rooms and dates of all the commissions have been predetermined. So that's why it's difficult to move the dates. Because if you move one date, there's other commissions and other council meetings in these dates. The only discretion you have right now is time period. of the time you
Right,
want to
you're
meet.
not going to get a Tuesday or a Thursday.
You can't move those days because the commissions and other committees are in those council chambers. So again, those are predetermined way ahead of time. The only discretion you have right now is this time period. What happened was traditionally it was 7:00, and at the last commission, they decided to make it earlier at 6. So it's your decision if you want to move it earlier or later. That's the only decision factor you have. Just makes it clear.
All right, so I make a motion for 7 p.m.
The
on the
rest of your
list.
membership on who has best time to do it, that's fine.
Any further discussion? Call the question. The motion is for meetings at 7 p.m. All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed?
Me, I like 6.
Me too.
I do too. Yeah, Frank likes to get home early.
I think of a young one, so.
Okay. Go Road Bond Program Overview and Phase 3 Endorsement. Mr. Watanabe, you
All
have a
right,
presentation.
Thank you. Good evening again. My name is Frank Watanabe. I'm the Public Works Director. I'm also the City Engineer. I've been pretty much the project manager for the road paving program. I'm going to go over the highlights of the road paving program. If you're not aware, that was a program that was established 2 years ago when the citizens voted a referendum and approved the bond measure. So with that, turn to the next slide. With that approval of the bond measure, you created they call it a 5-phase, 8-year construction period, which created the phases that you see in this chart. And with the mileage you see, that's overall close to 791 miles of roads to pave. And when I say pave, it means all types of paving. It could be a overlay, a microsurfacing, a full depth reclamation, reconstruction. And shown to the far right is the actual map with the color schemes. The dark blue was year 1, phase 1, that has already been completed. What's shown in kind of like yellow gold is the phase 2, which is currently now in operations, and I'll go over that, and then so forth and so forth. The color scheme shows the 5 phases. So it's a 5-phase program, but it'll take 8 years to complete because the bond measure gives us an extra 3 years for each year. So there's an 8-year construction, but 5-year of the phasing of units. If you turn to the next slide, we're going to year 1. Year 1, just to help you out too, it was made common sense as we're going to be paving all our streets in Palm Bay that we had to take care of our infrastructure, meaning the pipes. So in other words, we don't want to pave roads and then the next year tear them out to put pipes in. So council made the decision to move forward with the stormwater pipe replacements in advance of the road program, which made sense. And the stormwater program is totally funded in a separate funding source. You cannot mix stormwater pipes with the road bond. Your road bond money is purely to pave and build roads. Stormwater money pays for stormwater pipes for year 1, phase 1. This is what we did in the first year. So as you can see, we did a pretty good job in terms of getting all these pipes completed, and the total amount of pipes is shown on the table here, which shows that we have an engineer's estimate of about 4.4 and the actual construction cost of 3.4. So about $500,000 in savings. So it was pretty good in terms of our engineers and construction costs. If you turn to the next slide, shows you a picture of one of our large boxes. Not only do we do the small boxes, we do some of the larger boxes to get all the pipes done. Of course, they're crossing the streets. This is an example one at Garvey Street. Turn to the next slide. In addition to the contract work, we as Public Works implemented in the first year some minor in-house Public Works construction to install pipes to see if we could save money, and that was a success. At that time, we were using concrete pipes and concrete head walls. From that day to today, we've already changed that mechanism to using now plastic pipes. Why? To stretch out the money in the stormwater program. So this was just our program. This slide shows the actual paving for year 1. Again, all those ones in the blue, as you
Is
can
that blue or
see.
gray? Maybe I'm colorblind. Is that blue or gray?
It's blue. The bottom is green, but the blue is all on the map itself. The units are all shown. It was really just a combination of different units, but the total amount we actually spent in construction was over 30 million, 3.9 million. The engineer's estimate was 40.8. So we had over close to $10 million savings in the first year. When I say savings, it's, the savings in terms of we didn't spend that much. And so that was the first year. So we move into year 2. Year 1, this shows if you don't know what different types of construction are, this is what they call full depth reclamation. This is what we call reclaiming the material back into the asphalt, into the roadway. It pulverizes the existing asphalt and the road base to mix it back in to reclaim it. Then you add cement, you add emulsions, and that builds your base. And then you put a new AC on top of it. So this is a way of reclaiming the existing roadway itself. That's what they call it, full depth reclamation. And we did it to Elderon itself. The next slide. This is the same process, but this was out there in units 31 and 32. And in units 31 and 32, if you're not aware, that's close to the compound. Those roads don't have any asphalt on top of it. So in that process, we had to bring in millings. We had to actually bring in asphalt materials to mix in with the sand and dirt to create that pulverized material, to create a base material. So that was units 31 and 32. If we move on to the next slide, we move into year 2, which is this current year, which is called phase 2. The first 5 have already been advertised out. Actually, the first 2 have been constructed. Emerson Road between Mitten and C1. If you've driven Emerson, that northern half, that's all done, paved, ready to go. Port Malabar Boulevard between Palm Bay Road and Babcock, that's all been paved and ready to go and ready to sign off. When I say ready to go, I mean final punch, final closeout. So those 2 projects are pretty much close to done. The remaining units, 46, 24, and 25, and 17, are ready to start this week, last week. They're all ready to start. The contracts have been given notice to proceed. They will start implementing 24 and 25. Actually started today. They're out there as of today. They're supposed to be out there edge grading and surveying. 46 started last week, and 17 will start in about 2 weeks with the contractor. So those are the ones in the lower half down here in the lower southern half of the city. And then we have some bad news. We kind of knew about this in the northeast section. So in year 2, we have the southern half, yay. And then we have this huge area we call the northeast section, the older part of Palm Bay. And the older part of Palm Bay is the older part of Palm Bay. And so with that, there's a lot of utilities that are not where they should be. If you don't know utilities, utilities like your water and sewer, water being potable water and sewer being sewer, should be at a certain depth. And
Also copper and fiber and
everything else, correct. Utilities should be at a certain depth based on what you have. And typically, water stays above, above sewer. However, in the northeast area, it's not. And we recently had some issues, and so that's what's going to cause some issues now for the remaining list I show you right now. It has like units 1, 2, 3, 4, 27, 34, 42, 47. Then the rest of Port Malabar, units 5, and all these other ones that are in that northeast area. Well, we have conflicts now with utilities, so we're trying to work that out. Go ahead, Tom.
Just a quick question. On those units where the utilities are an issue, to fix the utilities, is that money coming out of the road bond money, or is that coming out of Public Works, or are we waiting on the Eagle to drop it?
The direction given to me by council was road bond is only supposed to be used for road bond, for road paving. So that's a determination that's soon going to have to be made. It may have to go back to council, but there is an issue regarding who pays for the utilities. And if you turn to the next slide, kind of gives you an example of what I'm talking about. These are active right now. These are active in units 2 and 3 and 4. On the first pipe, it shows a 36-inch pipe, and you can see barely right on top, there's a force main sitting right on top of it. So I can't remove that concrete pipe because there's a force main sitting right on top of it. And these force mains are old and brittle, and so any movement will crack that force main, which would cause a major problem. So that's an issue I'm talking about, utility conflicts. On the other pipe, I'm not sure how they did this, but the utility company core through my pipe. So this is storm drain pipe, a 30-inch storm drain pipe, and to make their water line go through, this potable water too, is cored through our storm drain. And we have several like this, not just 1 or 2. I'm talking about several locations that we have potable water, that's potable water, a force main, core through a stormwater pipe. So these are the problems that I have right now that are out there in real world. So that's what I'm saying. We have conflicts. And so that's what's right now kind of held up the northeast area to decide what we're going to do with these. Because as you see, these are associated huge costs. And these are unforeseen costs because, trust me, I would never have expected to see a force main in one of my storm drain pipes, because that's that pipe that I was going to slip line. I was going to put a sock through it and seal it. Well, I can't slip line that pipe now because there's another pipe in the way. And then vice versa, we have pipes like this where it's sitting right on top of our pipe. If I try to remove that concrete pipe, there goes the force main. And so, meaning that's water for that entire area. And so these are huge issues that we're going to be trying to figure out.
The pipe on the right, is that cast? Is that cast iron?
It's that old asbestos pipe.
Okay. And then the pipe on the left are PVC.
That's PVC, correct? No, the PVC is holding the actual pipe. The actual pipe below it is another.
Oh, I see.
It's another. What happened was in the old days they used other types of material than plastic. Today everything's plastic, PVC. Well, back in the old days they used other types of material, which is not good. Which is one of them is asbestos, and it was good at the time. But what happens is it gets old and brittle, and what's even worse is when you expose it to air, it really gets brittle. And so that's the issues that we're having right now. So I just want to educate you. That's why the Northeast area, we're having some challenges now, because as you see, these are some additional costs that was never foreseen in our programming. Because, and this right here is the pipe project moving forward. Our pipe project now is held up. That means if the pipe project is held up, so is our road project. Okay, so that's just giving you education where we are. Moving on to the next sheet,
Can I ask just a quick
Yes,
question?
sir.
So that's in the Northeast?
Northeast.
Okay. And then, because it says conflicts with the Southwest. Oh, never mind. It's not Southwest.
It's stormwater.
Stormwater. Never
Stormwater,
mind.
yes.
I was looking at this like, wait. All right.
Yeah.
So that's just in the Northeast. It's not to anywhere else in the city?
So far, just the Northeast.
Okay.
As we move forward,
So far that we know.
as we know.
Okay.
Again, this is education for me as well. Like I said, I'm new here. I've only been here 2 years, but I'm learning as well. Stormwater pipes for phase 2. Here's some of the breakdowns and costs you can see. So right now we're averaging about the same with all the stuff that we're doing. We're averaging about 4.4 million. And the reason why it's only 4.4 million with all these different pipes is this year, like last year, we pushed out in-house pipe installations. I pulled out 3 crews, and Public Works is installing as pipes as we can in the non-challenged area. So that's why we saved some money already in this year alone. So when we have 4.4, we have a lot more pipes. It's because I had 3 crews out there installing pipes, plastic pipes, as part of the stormwater program to help save on the stormwater funds, so that way we could stretch it out farther. And with that, the next slide. This is the actual road paving for phase 2. This is the breakdown of all the projects we have. The last 2 I'm still working on, but as you can see, the entire breakdown. So we're doing actually very well. Actual cost you see is 25.2 million. Engineering costs 34.7 million. So we're doing very well so far. However, this has a dark shadow because we're only down to about 7. Okay. If I have to hold up 7 to whatever I have, and some of those have already been bidded out and are out in the streets, gas prices going up. And so as gas prices goes up, those numbers are going to go up. The ones that I'm showing you right now that are at low end,
Asphalt prices are going to go up.
everything's going to go up because this is, asphalt is asphalt, it's road based, it's petroleum based. So if gasoline goes up, so does asphalt at a higher cost. As you saw, gas is going up in the very high cost, but just gallons, what I'm saying, you're buying today at the gas station, that asphalt price will go up. So that's why it's going to become an issue, because the last year and early this year, we've been doing great. We've been doing great because we've had great competitions. The paving companies know we have all this work, and so their prices are almost right on top of each other. I mean, literally right on top of each other when we open bids. So we've been doing a great job. However, that may change soon. I'm just educating you on what's going on. But so far, we've done great. Next slide. Just shows you what we're doing with our phase 2 public works crew. This is one of our crews out there installing a plastic pipe. You can see this plastic pipe. And this year alone, in unit 17, we installed 28 pipes. In unit 46, we installed 34 pipes. In unit 5, 12. And then in addition, we went back to 24 and 25 to install 16 pipes. So we installed all those pipes in-house by ourselves. And the easiest way is because we're installing with plastic pipes. Just to let you know, because we're doing this and council supports in-house use, because you see the benefits. They approved at the last council meeting a brand new excavator, just like this one, for about $177,000. So council approved us to get another piece of equipment, just like this one, so that way I could keep going out there and have a 4th crew out there. So that'll provide me a 4th excavator to go out there and start installing pipes. So I just want to educate you where we are, what directions council is going on. This shows you one of our larger boxes. This is what we call the Waterbury. They call it a box culvert, and it's an 8x11, so it's pretty large, 8x11. You can walk through it, you can drive through it. So they had 3 72-inch corrugated metal pipes that were failed and corroded. And you can see on the far right is the replaced brand new box culvert, which is an 8x10. We did 2 of these. We did one at Waterbury, and we also did one at Freehold this year. Those have been opened up. Those are done. Just want to show you what we've completed. Just to show you the phase 2 road improvements. This is Port Malabar, as I was talking earlier. The FDR process, bringing in the cement, bringing in the FDR mixer, bringing in the paving, we have black paving. And as of today, right now, you can drive that street is fully open. So that road is open to good. Moving now into year 3. So this is what we're here for today, year 3. Year 3 now shows everything, and it's kind of like a green. That's how I say it. So the green has all these ones, 13, 14, 22, 30, 37, 48, 47, 49. We're moving forward already with the 49 because this program, we can't wait. We need your endorsement at the end tonight. It's real critical tonight. At the end tonight, you're going to help endorse what we show here as the units. And these were, again, approved early on when we did the 5-year program. All you're doing is looking at this and seeing if it's what you want to endorse. Your endorsement will go to City Council. City Council will approve the program. Only council approves the program. So I just want to make sure you're aware of what was happening here. These are the units, those are the mileage, or the PCI index or the rating index you use for conditions of your roadway material. So in other words, if you have a high PCI, it's good. If you have a low PCI, it's bad. Those common sense. The mileage, the type of repair, FDR. This was early on when we did this 2 years ago. We made an assessment just to let you know, just a rough assessment. You look at unit 48, and we've already designed 48 now, just to give you, the pipes have been designed and the road has been designed. In unit 48, this is FDR 9.6 million. Our current design estimate, 3.6 million. So again, these things could change dramatically based on what we find. We go out there, we do a real assessment. When we did when bond measure passed, we had to get something out on the streets within months. So we did the best we can engineering wise, kind of like the best guess. We've been going out there and doing real field work, real testing, and then real designs of the plans. Currently right now, 48, it's not all FDR. There's a small portion of FDR. Most of it is mill and pave. Most of it is thin lift overlays. A good portion of it is double micro surfacing. So that went from 9.6 to 3.6 million. I foresee that with a lot of these other ones as well, except for 30. 30, which is at 11.4. And then here's the big one right now, which we getting public comment on, unit 49. In this unit map, unit 49 was in phase 3 originally. I have it right now. It's originally, it's tagged on 49, and just want to give you a heads up, you should look at this number too. 49 originally was at $12 million. The new number now is 16.1. This is why, because an engineering assessment, I did the engineering assessment. I'm an engineer, and we did the current estimate based on what we have, best information we have, and I walked every street, 16.1 million. So it went up 4 million from the original $12 million. So right now, total cost for year 3, 58 million. Just to give you a heads up, 58 million, we just pulled the second draw of a bond money. What we did is we pulled $50 million for the first year. And then in this third year, we're pulling another $50 million. Total is $150 million. We exceeded, as you see.
You have to go for the third draw before you do 49.
This
Well,
is
it's
using
true.
current numbers.
Yeah.
Again, using current numbers, right? All I'm saying, this is best guess current numbers. Like I just told you right now, if Frank could drop 48 from 9.6 to 3.6, how can the other ones change as well? I don't know. All I know is 49 went up because it was at $12 million. Now it went up to 16. So it could go the other way as well. So just be cautious about that. Just want to educate you. This is phase 3, year 3. The next slide is the actual assessment. So we did an engineering assessment, council directed staff to do an engineering assessment of unit 49, and unit 49 is down there right next to the compound. If you don't know where the compound is, it's right next to the compound. And the compound is that area of land that is pretty much undeveloped, and it's not going to be developed because council made a determination for no one to build out there yet because we don't know what's going to happen out there. But it's mainly all platted residential, mainly residential. There's some commercial, some light industrial, but mainly it's all residential. Small lots down in the west corner.
Lots of different owners.
Yeah, if you haven't been out there, it's the Wild West out there. But there's roads, nothing out there at all. And we have a lot, and there's over about 80 miles of roadway out there. So with my engineering assessment, we have in unit 49, I did this back in December. We have 90 residential homes per the county assessor's office. There's about 106 streets. Total linear footage is 168 linear feet instead of 156, which I found the difference. So there are differences, but the original one had 156. The actual is 168. There's 190 pipes in this area, 190 pipes. So not sure if they all failed, but there's 190 pipe crossings. The soil condition out there is sandy, it's brown, tannous material. We did not do any geotechnical course because at the time I was not given any funds to do any geotechnical course. But based on my practical experience, knowing that type of sandy brown material that we had in units 31, 32, good example, in 31, 32, we had a street. It was a Gainer Road, had the same sandy material. We were supposed to reconstruct the road. We couldn't do that. Once we found out it was that sandy material, and once we started digging down, we had geotechnical people hit the testing on it. Couldn't do it. There's no way to build a base on that material. So we instead did the FDR. We mixed it with other materials and put a bunch of cement into it and stiffened it up. And that was the only way to make that road work because the sandy material was just too sandy and it was deep. I mean, we dug down 8 feet and it was nothing but sand. And so there was no heart plate. There's no nothing. I'm concerned when I see that same brown sandy material in a lot of this area. So I just want to give you a heads up. I could be wrong until we do true geotechnical, do a bore, but based on my experience, units right next to it, that sandy material was a good portion of that bad road, which is a good portion of what I saw in units 49. Moving on, again, this will all be FDR based on what we were told. It'd be all FDR. But there are 2 streets that are existing, that are out there that are paved. One is Bombardier and the other one is St. Andres. Both of those will be milled and paved. And then there's associated other costs that needs to be included in here. If you haven't been to 49, 49 has mainly all paved streets, not in great shape. But there's a lot of growth, a lot of vegetation, a lot of pepper trees to the point where you can't even drive through some of these streets. Literally, I mean, it's thick to the point where that's it. So there's going to be vegetation and trimming that needs to be done. Most of the streets, under our requirements, our city ordinance, the street has to be 20 feet wide. That's our city ordinance. We don't have that out there. So there's going to be some widening needed to get those streets to be 20 feet. Like I say, most are about 10 to 12 foot wide on average. We need to have surveys done on those streets wide because we don't know where the street is. If you go out there, you kind of know where the dirt or the paved road is, but you're not really sure if that's where the road belongs. The reason why I say that, because our right of way in some of those areas are 50 feet wide. So if that road is scooted over all the way to one side, we could be totally out of our right of way. And can that happen? We already have several roads that we have just like that, where I'm putting it back exactly how it is because I'm not buying people's right of way because somebody put the road in the wrong spot. But literally the road is outside of the right of way. And that can happen. I mean, it happens. So we need to survey it to make sure you know exactly where the road is. We'll be needing geotechnical soil borers and testing done to do the FDR mix, to design the mix. I'm assuming for these areas, will you be using higher percentages of cement, higher percentages of emulsion? Typically what we use are 3% cement, 3% emulsion. In some of the areas in 31, we went up as high as 5%. Right now in units 25, we have the same sandy material, 5 to 6%. And the sad thing is the more cement you use, the higher the cost goes up. Cement is very expensive to use because it's being mixed in with material. Then also we have is, if you've been out there, there's a lot of junk. People have used this as their dumping ground. So there's stuff like boats and refrigerators and furniture and tires and vehicles pushed back into the bushes back there. I mean, literally hidden. So there's going to be some additional cost to remove all that just to build the road. And then finally, at the end, I got to put trenching and swells in because the whole system has got to work. So what's happened is in this overall road program, as we talked about, the pipes had to go in first. So when the pipes went in some of these areas, if you go out there, it's pretty flat and there's no swell, so there's no drainage system. But at one time when this was GDC had a plan. I got all the plans that says the pipes had to be below the road, and then with that, there was a trench system. Well, they're all gone now. So with all the trenching all gone, like in units 30 and 31 right now, we're coming back afterwards now and putting in the swells. So people were kind of shocked when we're putting in pipes that were deeper than the road, but literally were like pits where the pipes were sticking out the ends. And they're questioning that we put the pipes in too low. But you have to think about this. If the road's already there, and there's a few homes already out there, I can't raise the road. There's no way I could raise the road. The reason why, because if I start raising the road and the road is higher than the finished floor of the house, then now I bought that house. That house has to be above the roadway, has to be at least a foot above finished floor. That's county standards. So that way the septic system works. So because of that, I can't raise any of the pipes are all been done way when GDC developed it. So what we do is we go off with their plans and we put the pipes in. Then we do the roads, and so it kind of looks kind of weird because the pipes are deep in the ground. We'll come back later and we'll trench it. And in the past, we were using what we call a trencher, which is a mechanical blade that it doesn't do as well. I'm going to be using the excavators that you saw earlier and actually going in and trenching it. We've done that in units 23, where it was very critical because we had some paved swells. Again, you'll notice this city has these paved swells. And so because it was holding water and it wasn't working with using the trencher, it's taking too long, we actually pulled our crews that were doing pipes and moved them out there, and we started trenching in swell systems. And it worked out quick and fast. So just want to give you, those are all the additional costs. So with that equaled the $16 million in unit 49. So this is my assessment that I'll be giving to council eventually. So you're getting the prelude of what I will give to council to make their determination, because council asked for an assessment. Here's the assessment. And the value number is 16 million. What does that mean? It's a council call now. So it'll be a council to make a determination where this goes. So just want to give you an education on the 49 assessment. The next sheet would be your endorsement. So my recommendation as for you to make an endorsement would be the year, and I call it still the year 3 road paving, which is now used as phasing, would be units 13, 14, 22, 30, 37, 48, 15, 57. Those are the original ones in the original plan that was established 2 years ago by council. The total amount would be about 140 miles. With that would be a rejuvenation maintenance program, which council has recommended that we start doing. We would be doing, again, minor, we're going to mirror the pipe installation with the road program. And then, again, we're going to start initiating pipe inspections. And then we need to have your endorsement. So with that, that's pretty much, I think, my presentation. Next slide. There is one. Nope, that's it. So that is my presentation. So what I need for the Infrastructure Advisory Board is to think about the overall road program and to make a decision on the year 3 road paving program. Your decision will then go to council. This is set to go to the March 18th city council meeting. Your endorsement will go in front of the city council for their approval of the year 3 program. So when Jennifer was mentioning, does your acts have a tie with the contracting with construction? Well, yeah, this vote moves it to council to move those years for road paving. So you guys are making a call shot tonight. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I have a few questions for you. For the phase 2 road paving, the engineering estimate versus the cost, that's still technically an estimate at this point? Because I know you said that we're still like in the process.
The phase 2 that had the real numbers on one side, those are the real engineering estimates, and then those are the real construction costs.
Okay.
Open bid costs.
Okay. And then when you're bidding them out, are you bidding out per project or per section, or did you all do one bid, got a multi-award, and then you are now having them?
We do our procurement office department prefers to do each individual bid, or we group them as bundles.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't go out and do a range of bids, and then we and kind of like shortlist them.
Mm-hmm.
We do each project separately.
Okay, so each project goes out on the street each time. All right, and then so as far as the difference between the engineering estimate and the cost, how are we continuously tracking that savings, and what are we doing with it after? Or we haven't had that conversation yet?
Well, that conversation, the savings goes right back in the road bond program.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a funding
It
source.
prolonged us pulling year 2 quite a bit.
Correct, but the bond money is a separate fund mechanism, no different if it doesn't impact fee. So it doesn't get buried back into like a general fund or get buried back into some other funding sources. Any I hate the word savings, but any differences will be put back into the road bond program. So that way it'll push to the year 5. Because right now the original estimate of $150 million to do the 800 miles, there's no way you do 800 miles with $150 million. But my best guess would be if we start leveraging it out and not doing all FDRs, and instead we're doing various types of others, as I showed you before, we may reach that threshold. And that's my goal. My earliest assessment when I did in the real value was close to 180, but that means reducing the FDR and doing other types of improvements like overlays and microsurfacing at a lesser cost because those roads don't need it. The original estimate was all FDR on all the streets.
So you're saying that your assumption is that the bond that we did get for $150 million will not cover what we thought it was going to cover?
The bond measure was not determined from an engineering standpoint. The bond measure was picked out of a number, and that was the number that was voted upon. I wasn't here.
I got that number from Jarvis.
Okay, I wasn't here.
I personally got that number from Jarvis long before it all started.
Okay. Like I say, I would have a hard time saying to get 800 miles at 150 using all FDR. Again, using FDR. Now that I know that I've done 2 years of it, you're not going to use all FDR. And we've done most of the worst streets. The areas that we were talking about right now are the streets that have the remaining ones like 49, 30, and 24 and 25. That's it. And the rest of the city, we have some areas that have bad PCIs, but majority of them are your PCIs are still in the 70s and 80s. So that means you're going to be overlaying those streets. So your cost of FDR and the cost per mile is going to drop. So that should stretch it out and make that 5-year program.
Mhm.
But
And I
then
know-
again, if gas prices go up, that's a whole different story.
Okay.
Other questions? Yeah, Mr. Jones?
So the second year road paving, you said that cost is the actual cost, the 25.
No, except for the ones that have not awarded yet. So in other words, the last 3
Are the to be determined?
are to be no. The last 3. So you can see where the numbers are the same as the engineer's estimate. When the engineer's estimate and the costs are the same, those bids have not been opened yet.
Okay.
Everything above that, so in other words, everything above unit 20, like unit 5, see, the engineer's estimate was over $1 million. The actual number is 921. That's a real bid number that was open.
Okay.
So anything that has a different cost next to the engineer's estimate, the engineer's estimate appears to be high on all of them, which is good. Those are the actual those are real open bids from contractors that we have secured.
And then you said for the endorsement, at the end, it's units 13, 14, 22, 30, 37, 48, and 57. So you're taking out 49?
49 is a council call,
Okay,
unless you guys want to recommend it, but that's still going to be a council call.
okay.
So it was not originally in the plan, 49?
49, if you go back to that map that I had originally, I want to make sure in the original council workshop,
Oh, you want
49 was
the
in
first
it's no, that wasn't that one right there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It was in phase 1.
Like this one right here. In the original workshop, this was 49, was in year 3. But at the end of the workshop, there was lots of discussion of moving things around. This is moving units around. There were moving units around. 49 got moved out to year 5. That I know for a
Year 5.
fact because councilmen wanted to move, and that's their right. They're councilmen. They wanted to move some of the units around at the last minute because they went through these workshops. That's what this was. It's like here, at the last minute, the council at a final council meeting moved it. So 49 originally was in year 3. Today, right now, if you look at the actual map, it's in year 5.
And you want to bring it back, propose to bring it back to year 3?
No, I'm not. I'm just stating the facts right here.
No. But you said that we wanted to give a vote, yea or nay. So are you trying to bring back 49 to year 3?
I'm giving you the fact right now. If you put 49 into year 3,
Frank,
you're gonna exceed.
Here's the
bond
way I'm
limit.
going to handle it. You're asking for an endorsement short of 49. I'll accept the motion on that endorsement, and then I'll accept another motion for unit 49 if somebody wants to make the motion.
You're the chair. Perfect.
He
For
said his
unit,
hand
for
up.
unit 49 to do what? To be brought to year 3? Because I got an indication that he wants it to be brought to year 3.
No, it didn't. There's nowhere in this presentation. I'm just showing you the facts.
He was asked to bring those figures forward, bring the information forward so that council could decide whether to move it or not to move it. And council's looking for our recommendation also.
Whether to move it to year 3 or keep it at year 5.
Correct.
But then he's saying if we move it to year 3, the budget is going to go up to 58 million, which would be more than the draw that we're going to take now.
Correct.
Let me get clarification on that. Says unit 49 is that you talked about the compound. Is that where the compound?
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
the compound is not actually. The
In the
compound
plan.
is one area just west of Unit 49.
Okay.
The compound is not part of the road paving program.
Good.
Okay, it was taken out of the road paving program.
This is unit 49.
So the compound is everything west of 49. It's a lot larger area.
And then if my memory serves me correctly, wasn't 49 originally back in unit 1 under when you guys changed it for unit 42 in Garvey?
No, it was always in 3. Yeah. It was always in 3.
Mr. Woodard?
I know we had a good time. Can we have the gentleman get up and speak now? They was going to speak
Wait,
earlier
you
before
wanna
we
open
go
it
into
public?
any more
Right.
meetings.
Yeah, that's after we ask Frank questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a question for Frank?
No, but before we make
Any other
motions
questions?
or anything, I'd like to hear.
And we'll open it
I
up
have
for-
a question, one question. Since you are the engineer in charge, would there be a practical benefit to bringing 49 to year 3, in your opinion?
No.
Okay.
And
So
I'll-
council already made the decision to move it to 5?
No. All they asked for was exactly what he,
Well, no,
Brought
no, no.
forward tonight.
His quick. Can you roll back to the very first sheet that has the color matrix? That's it. That was approved by council. Okay, so that's what was approved by council. So that's the program that we're going with right now. So anytime you would move any of those colors out of that, you then potentially could. It's like a domino effect, you know.
If you move one, then you have to try to.
And then what happens is if you start moving one, when do you stop?
Hmm.
And then my issue would be as a catch up for me is like it's challenging from my standpoint because I got to try to stay ahead of it. You know, I've got to get all the pipes and all the engineering design all within this. You know what I'm saying? For me to stay what we're doing right now, it's a challenge. So if you start playing musical chairs, nothing's going to get done. I'm just saying from a practical standpoint, I've got to design it, I got to survey it, I got to take it care of. And then on top of that, that's just the paving. In advance of that, I got to design and survey all the pipes and get them put in the ground in advance of this tight window that we're trying to get this thing done. So what the city has done is in the last couple of years is in my personal opinion, is it's outstanding for us to put all these pipes and all this road work done in the last couple of years. For me, this city has done a great job. I'm saying this year alone, we're going to push out almost 25 bids on roads, you know, which equal up to you saw those numbers. So that's huge for this size city.
okay. I have a question.
Mhm.
In your phase 3, not including unit 49, are there any paved swales included in that engineering?
Which one?
In your phase 3 that you want an endorsement for,
In
is there any
49?
paved swales in those? Not excluding unit 49, and then I'm going to ask you the same question about unit 49.
Again, in year 3, I know for a fact we have paved swales in unit 48. Until I finish my assessment, I don't know the rest of them are. I don't know. I know for a fact in the northeast quadrant, 48, 42, and 44 in that area, there's an abundance of paved swales, very, very deep paved swales to the point where you could pipe them. In some of these other areas, as you start sliding down to the lower areas, and like 24 and 25, there are some paved swales, but they're shallow. They're challenging because they're shallow. It means I can't put a pipe under it. There's no physical way. They're just shallow to the point where if I try to put a pipe, there'll be a hump. There'll be a speed hump at the intersection. So those are challenging. To the remaining 49, probably 30, probably 2. But until I do my engineering assessment, the only engineering we've done and designed is right now 48. I have inspectors going out doing 13, 14. We just now started 30. But until I get surveyors and inspectors out there, and then I go out there after their assessments, I don't have the information right now. So I can't give you a fact.
If you engineer any future paved swales, will they be concrete? Because when I go look at paved swales, what comes up is it's a fix for water flow. And you look at all the images for it, and all of them, if it's an asphalt road, it has a patch of concrete where that water flow is.
Traditionally, what he's talking about is most cities don't put paved swales. You put a valley gutter, which is made out of concrete. And that's a traditional way. It was just like when you have a curb and gutter where water hits the curb and gutter, and the concrete is a concrete, gutter. It holds the water and transfers the water because that concrete would survive better with the water. Asphalt doesn't do well with water. So in the long term, and we have these paved swales that lasted all this long. So nothing saying that it won't last, but is it something you should do? No, you try not to. But at the same time, we're trying to do what we can do with the road program. If the council gave me the direction was put the road back how it is. In other words, I don't widen it. They gave me one direction they gave me was all roads should be 20 feet. Last year I said, well, council, some of our roads are 15, 17. So do you want me to widen, the extra 3 feet? That means taking out mailboxes, taking out sprinkler heads, taking out fences. And the council said, no, put back what's out there. Got that. In addition, last year, the only thing I want to make sure you're aware of, they gave me the collector streets that have sidewalks, collector streets. Okay. We meet ADA. In other words, if there's certain things that don't meet ADA, we don't have truncated domes, we don't have the right type of ramp, fix those to meet ADA requirements. That's a federal requirement. Cities can play the game, but when you're using federal dollars, you got to play federal games. Council approved that one as well. This is if they're on a collector street, make it ADA accessible. So we're doing that on all the streets as well. So that's where the little change where at one time council says no concrete work, no sidewalk, no signals. They realized some of those things are important. And so they made those two big changes last year. They can make the same one this year too. They may decide on other things because there's some issues. I'm going to tell them again. It makes changes that may happen. But once they ask me as their city engineer, and I hope they endorse my my engineering, but they've been so far have been very open to making slight changes so that way it's the benefit for the whole community in the big picture. And maybe one of them could be changing paved swells from asphalt to concrete. I agree with you, Tom.
That's the best practice. We've established that in an earlier conversation, that the best practice is not to have paved swales. And if you do, that you have the water flow on concrete, not across asphalt, because spending $150 million on asphalt. And historically, we have no budget for road maintenance. We're changing that now, but historically, there's not been anything there. So I would prefer to do the job right the first time. Any other questions? Don, public comment? And I'd just like to take a moment. Don sat on this board with me for at least the last 2 years. He was there when I got there, so I'm not sure how long he's actually served on the board, but it was always a pleasure to serve with him, and thank you.
Well, first I want to say Frank is doing a great job with this road program. It's amazing what he's been able to accomplish in this very short period of time. One of my observations is year one had a $9 million surplus. Year two so far has a $9 million surplus. So I don't understand why there would have to be a draw for 58 million when there's 18 million as of right now that hasn't been used in the first 2 years. So that would reduce that number down to 40,000 or 40 million rather. But that be what it may. Unit 49 is a very unique, long, slender unit, as you can see. It has one main road running down from Bombardier on the north side to St. Andre on the south side. Now, St. Andre was taken out all by itself because it was a feeder road going through that area down below. And it was paved all by itself with none of the other roads in that area having been paved. It was set aside, just that one road was paved. And I'm wondering if that couldn't be done in Unit 49 as well, because Unit 49 has that one main road, Madden Avenue, running all the way down from top to bottom, just about from top to bottom, from Bombardier to St. Andre, with little short side streets, as Frank said, that are only some of them 12, 15 foot wide. They have overgrowth and there's no homes on them. So why spend the money at this point in doing all those small roads? Why not just put that main road down, pave that main road down, put it in with number 30, so you'd get some cost savings by having it attached with 30. While they're doing that one, they could continue on up and do that long road. And that way you would have a connector road between those two main thoroughfares with little short runs off the side that could be done at some other time if there's money left for that. As I recall, when I was on the board, it seems to me that the reason that 150 million looks like it might be short is because the whole northeast section was not included. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
He is correct. The somehow or another, when the program was put in place, the northeast section, which is a very large area, which is the northeast,
Where all the utility problems are.
and there's no units up there. What it was is the northeast was old GDC. Beyond that, the units started occurring, and GDC was part of it. But the old Palm Bay didn't have any units, And we're talking about the Bristol Heights, Palm Bay Colony, up in that northern area. That wasn't part of the program originally. And so I found that out in the year as we started doing the numbering. And so when the council voted, that was put into the program, but that means there's all those streets that were not really, balanced in with the $150 million that was put in originally. But the program from day one, when the council approved it, did have the Northeast in it. I found the error. And again, I just started here when my predecessors were here, and there's some changes, and I'm the one who's been the project manager since that time. But when it went to council, I made sure that units were in there. Those units were in there.
And thank you for clarifying that, because that's where my question was headed. I just couldn't fathom that we got $150 million without the thought process of it actually being able to come to fruition. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah. Again, remember, there was a lot of, I don't think the people, and I don't think the city had there was a surprise for everybody that it got approved from what I heard. I just got here. And so with that made a lot of challenges for me when I got here. Within a few months, I had to make sure the numbers balanced out correctly.
So the initial engineering estimate, that did not come from you. It came from the previous engineer.
The initial engineer estimate came from a 3-year-old pavement index assessment that was done, which I don't support these pavement index assessments, but they did a pavement index index assessment that drove all the roads that determined, again, that the road conditions, and they rated it, and they say then you have to have this, and they came up with they said actually 150 will work. They actually said it was like 130, almost 140 would work. Me being a practical person who's been doing designs of roadways for a long time, there's no way. If he says it's all going to be FDR, and then when I went out and started driving, and I walk every road, I walk every road. Every one of the roads I put up there, I walk it. I make sure I want to make sure what we do, we spend the money correctly. And I know when I see a roadway condition and feel and walk on it, which ones have base failure, which ones have structural failures, or which ones I could just micro seal. And we've been doing pretty good. And the roads I see beyond this year are in okay shape. We're going to micro and overlay a lot of streets. And when I say micro surfacing, people say, if you go down to Cogan right now, from San Filippo, heading out to Babcock, it's all black, looks really nice, looks like a nice overlay. That's a double chip micro surface. You can't tell the difference. Most people think it was an overlay. I thought it was an overlay, but that double chip, and then when they say double chip, it's a very, very fine aggregate. So it's not a paving machine, it's a tanker truck, but it has very fine aggregate. And when you do a double seal of it, it looks like an overlay. And it's supposed to last 7 years. So if I do that twice, that'll give me 14 years. Well, there you go. I got 20-year pavement at a quarter of the cost of an asphalt. So those are the ways we're hoping to save, just like switching from concrete to plastic. Does that make sense? Yeah. Well, did you steal the life of the material? No, because new plastic pipes last 100 years, just like concrete pipes, because technology has changed. So we're trying to make it work, but the bottom line is we did the best we could with what we had at the time.
I understand, but the $9 million difference or surplus is an overhaul, to say the least, and that's coming from a professional standpoint. That's a really overhaul for a project. I mean, I can understand 2 million, maybe sometimes 1 to 5, but 9 is an overkill. But it had no part in you because you didn't make the estimates, and like you said, you don't really support those indexes. But that goes to show why.
Well, the indexes were 2014 or 2017.
2017. So they're outdated already. Just so that you know, pavement index, pavement surveys, street surveys, 3 years tops.
I'm sorry. Did you get interrupted?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, Don.
Not unusual.
So you're suggesting that in 49, they just do that main road to adding in to 30.
The north-south collector
Right.
road.
Right.
Would that add, I guess my question would be would that, from an engineering standpoint, does that make sense from your perspective? And then would that adjust the cost, and how would that look as far as adjusting the cost for this phase 3?
If you want my opinion from a dollar standpoint, Madden Street, which runs north and south, probably is about maybe 3 miles tops. When you take it all the way to the end, it goes past St. Andre too. Madden goes all the way to the very edge of the border. I'd say about 3 miles. So if you take 3 miles times 20 feet of roadway, if you start doing that, Yeah, you're talking about probably about maybe 1.5 million.
Which would allow us to stay within the second.
I'm just throwing numbers out, until I really run the numbers.
Mhm.
I'm just worst case. I'm
Yeah.
just saying about 1.5 million. A good example is, and that's doing a full FDR and doing all that stuff. If soil conditions are right, reason why I can say that, El Dorado was in that price range, which was about a mile, a certain section. So I'm using numbers that I know for sure.
So that street, I'm sorry, where are you done? I'm so sorry.
But just, and then in your opinion, would it make sense to do just that road and then come back to do the rest later? And what he's suggesting? That is what you're suggesting, correct? That's what I'm making sure. Okay.
I'm just saying in terms of, I understand what he's asking for, and I'll be in the same situation that I was living out there too as well. But that, you as a board, as a commission, has to think of the city as a whole. And that's where you gotta be cautious because, there's a good chunk of those very dense populated areas. If we don't get out there, and I can't say my best guess is we're going to hit all the streets, but that's why I would say wait to the end to make sure you make that judgment call. But to add one street, I don't think it'll hurt. That's all I'm saying. To add one street, I don't think it'll hurt. Would $1 million really unbalance in this overall matrix when you're talking about 58 million? I don't think that's going to be a breaker. However, that's something you have to decide which would be the best decision.
Is
Do you
that
want to add one more street?
would that be a dangerous precedent though, like to where making exceptions in certain areas?
You just hit it right there.
Yeah, so that could end up snowballing and more people.
When does it stop?
We know it's our decision, that's the question, but we haven't heard your opinion. Would it make sense to do it?
You asking me?
Oh, mine? I'm staff. I, from an engineering standpoint, you have all the numbers.
And so question for you, David, when you're saying an exception, you're saying as far as making the exception to add that one street of 49 into phase 3, you're saying that would be viewed as an exception to the public? Is that what you're saying?
I think it could. If 49 is in phase 5, but we decide to take just one road up 49 and do it into phase 3, then yes, because I don't know if we've done that in any of the other phases to where we said, well, I know this isn't in this phase, but we're going to do this one road because of, and that would be a scary precedent to set, just because then people can say, well, what about this road or what about that road? You see what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. And then so for 49, I guess I'm thinking about 2 mobilization costs. So that one connector road, will that save any, are we close to any other unit with 49 from phase 3?
Yeah, again, a good example that Mr. David Jones mentioned was, and Don mentioned that, St. Andres was paved all the way out to the end. I don't know why. I mean, again, it's not a collector road that goes to any major activity center.
Well, there's 3 other roads that were set up as a test project out there that are already done also.
I understand that too. So, but again, I wouldn't have picked those roads. Good example is I tested a new rejuvenation. I didn't pick a road that's out in nowhere. I picked Culver because I know that road's heavily used.
Because I noticed the coloration.
Yeah, I put up special rejuvenation and the contractor, and I got it for free. And so it's because they were using it as a test case. It's a new style, and I'll bring this to the board in the near future. It's a new plant-based, oil-based rejuvenation that's 100% recycled, 100% green. So it's not using oil base; it's using a plant base, and that's what we put out there. And all from what I can tell so far, it's equal to the rejuvenation of the other chemicals at the same price. But this one's green, free, and the best thing is, when applied to, it's clear. And so I see a lot of benefits towards it. But we did it on a test road that I know has heavy use, Culver Drive. So I would pick a road that has heavy use that would serve the majority of the population.
One thing I wanted to point out, because it sounded like there was some confusion, but 49 is this unit right here. The road
Could you flip that one?
Goes all the
Next
way
sheet
down
has a
from
more-
one end to
Hey,
the
Don,
other.
she'll flip the next sheet that has more detail. You can see right there. So now you can see it better.
Okay. This would be Madden coming all the way down here. And all these other streets coming off from the sides here. 30 is right here, this big If you go back to that last slide. 30 is this unit right here. So as they're doing this whole unit here, they could add on this one row without, and get quantity savings from quantity.
That would just be, that to me, that would be the justification behind the exception part of, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying, but from what you listed as far as the facts go for the unit, with there only being 90 homes over there, with there being so much additional work that has to be done on those little streets, that is gonna cost more money and more time from staff and contractors, I don't see it being, for me at least, wise to do those little streets right now, and this is my part of the opinion. But if you're saying that that street is where we can see the benefit of doing that one street and be able to save the cost savings for mobilization and things of that nature, because it's right next to a unit that is already planned to be done, then you're right, $1.5 million is not gonna make a difference, being that we've already saved 18 million plus on the previous phases.
The 49, it's on that slide in the cost, but it's my understanding is it's not in that anymore. It's in year 5. It's not in year 3. So
It's
that's
approved for year 5.
it's approved for year 5.
The proposal before us is to move it to year 3.
But that 58 million number includes that 16 point. So like based off of the numbers that I did with phase 1, phase 2, the proposed phase 3 without 49 in it, we are at 98.223. And then if you add in that additional $1.5 million, even if it's $2 million, we're still under our bump. We're still under our second draw. So everybody benefits from the draw not being overdrawn, as well as that street being paid, as well as we're saving on quantity and mobilization costs. And we can get to those streets after, because based off of those facts, 90 homes, you're telling me that all this stuff is there. That's gonna take more work to get into when you can be doing other work and then come back to that last, in my personal opinion.
So just to be clear in my mind, 49 is going to be done. It's just whether now or in year 5.
Correct.
Okay.
But now there's a possible now exemption we're talking about adding is not doing full 49 now, just doing that partial one road.
That was a request.
It's the request that we have to consider.
Make sure I understand the request. Are you willing to trade all of Unit 49 for that one road? Or are you saying do one road now and the rest in year 5?
I'm saying that there's a good possibility that there won't be enough money to complete all the roads. So if you do that one road, at least you'll have the little
Right,
short
feeder
roads
road.
cutting off of that. If they never get done, I mean, I'm sorry, but we ran out of money. But at least you've got the main road, so people that come off
They're
of
within
it,
a quarter mile of being able to get on good pavement.
absolutely, just like they did St. Andre.
It makes
Thank you
sense to
all.
me too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
To me.
Any other discussion? If not, I need a motion.
I propose a motion that we add that main road in 49 in year 3.
My second.
Okay, I think we wanted to do this as two separate things.
Okay.
49 as a separate motion, and then the rest of phase 3 as the motion for our recommendation
Okay.
to approve.
So I'm going to motion that we.
Hold on. So
Sorry.
you had a second on that motion already, so you would need to withdraw those.
Need to withdraw those.
All right. So I withdraw.
Thanks, I didn't catch it.
I withdraw the first motion. That
Good thing
I
she
withdraw a
said-
second.
Okay.
So I move a motion that we keep 49 in stage 5, in phase 5. That's what they're asking to separate. And also that we add that one road into phase 3. Did I move it correctly?
Let me
I think you
clarify.
did.
Two
I-
separate.
Yeah. I mean, I can,
You go ahead. Go ahead.
so I give a motion to do phase 3 as it's
Hold on.
listed.
So
You have-
you're, so hold on. Procedurally, he's made a motion And
Yes,
there was
to
was there no
withdraw.
There
second?
wasn't a
Wait,
second.
was there any second?
No.
So then your motion fails for lack of a
Right.
second. And then you move on to,
And I recognize Ann.
Okay. So now I give a motion, to do phase 3 as it's listed without unit 49.
Second.
That's the right one.
Any further discussion? With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, let's talk Unit 49. I need a motion.
So now I move a motion that we do that one main road in Unit 49,
Bad.
Madden, as a part of phase 3.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
I'm still,
6-1.
no, I'm sorry.
2 nay.
I'm still nay.
6-2, excuse me. 5-2.
No, 5-2.
5-2.
5-2. It's critical, but they hit 5-2. I'm saying that because this has got to go to council. I will be taking the same presentation and that same assessment is going to council, so they want to hear where your votes are.
Okay. Next order of business. Well, that's the end of the agenda. Anybody have any comments, questions?
Tom, maybe just ask if they want to add something to the future agenda. Which
Right. Anything you want to see in next month's meeting? Anybody?
For myself, I don't know if this is something that we probably have planned to have a conversation about, but the expansion of the roads, as we start to consider the, expansion with Emerald City, how that will look.
you're talking about down the parkway down south with Emerald Lakes.
Yeah, oh, yes.
We had I gave a presentation but you're a new commissioner, so I'll be happy
Oh,
to give
man.
you. I'll give you a presentation of where we sit today. It's what they call it's down there where the new St. John's Heritage Parkway at I-95. There's a brand new development called Emerald Lakes. It's right by the interchange. There's two big ones. There's that one that hasn't even touched ground yet, and the other section is what they call Cypress Bay, which is Ben Jeffries development that has residential homes that's under construction with some commercial. The Emerald Lakes is the one by the freeway. They're proposing to have is a 5-star hotel, lots of commercial, lots of other types of mixed uses as well as residential and multifamily developments. I will bring that presentation to educate you all where we sit today on that project.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
as well as-
I want to ask you to bring back to revive one of your old presentations where you explained to the board what full depth reclamation and thin lift and
That's a very good. I will bring you at the next the next infrastructure advisory board. I will educate you on the various types of road improvements, like he's talking about what is considered a reconstruction, what is full depth reclamation, what is mill and pave, what is
the
thin
cost
lift,
associated.
and then the cost associated with each one. And so that way you'll have a better understanding of when we start talking about these, the dollar amounts and what we're talking about in terms of the actual, these projects in reality. So I'll give you an education on that as well. All right.
And inclusive to that, could you include Malabar, like as that goes out as these like the 4 developments that are now being developed going out towards Heritage?
For 4-lane in Malabar, once you get past to the canal, C20
Yeah.
belongs to the county.
I would say that there's maybe at the next, not this coming one, but the following one, if you want, Malabar Road from City Hall all the way south to the St. John Heritage Parkway. Portion of that city, portion of that's the county. However, there is what they call a PD&E study, a planning, development, and environmental study being paid by FDOT, city run, to widen it to 4 lanes. With that includes signals, with that includes roundabouts, with that includes a interlocal with the county to make it a 4-lane roadway. And I'll give you an update where we are with that project, as well as where we are with some of the projects that you're talking about. We have several major developments, Chaparral, Avery Springs, St. John's Heritage, these big, larger home developments. And I'll give you kind of where we are with all those. So you'll have a good idea what's going on in that quadrant down there. Is that all
Where
right?
are we with the boxes on Malabar?
The boxes on Malabar.
The boxes that were sunk, that we were going to prop them.
I will give you an update.
Just seal that.
I was going to, just to give you a heads up, what he's talking about, Malabar Road, if you haven't driven it, you know, the section by Walmart, Emerson, you know, it's settling because the county, when they install, there's dual large 72-inch concrete pipes, they were not installed correctly. I know that because I've been in those pipes. They were not installed correctly. And so they're settling, they're leaking, they're not so good. Overall cost to replace an entire system, we're talking about 20, who knows how many $1 million. So we have a pilot project. We just started last night. So this new pilot project is one that I came up with. Instead of trying to rip up the pipes and try to do it, there's a new style of pipe repair, which is called spin casting, which is what they use is they spin cast the concrete to create a new pipe within the old pipe. They do this in large tunnels and do this all over the country where they have large, back in New York, where you can't dig out these large train tunnels and can't dig out these large subway train tunnels, they spiral cast them. And that's what we're doing here in this project here. But in addition to that, we're injecting the ground after we figure out where these voids are, and we're injecting it with polymer that acts with water. It's kind of like an epoxy. And we just started last night. And so what does it re-stabilizes and re-strengthens these void areas so that way we have a solid roadway again. So that project just started. I'll give you an update where that is. And again, it's a new style, new method. The current pilot project, which goes 500 feet from either side of Emerson, it's about $1 million. So if this works out, the remaining 2 miles left will cost us another $2 million. So $3 million to repair the entire pipe system, which at one time was like $30 million. So, and we'll say, and a lawsuit, which we lost.
Right.
So I'll give you an update on that. So these are things that because these are really important because these are huge projects. Council, it's a council priority. Malabar Road is a major road for us. So, but in the near future, we'll program these, not all at once because they're pretty lengthy. I'll schedule them in your next meetings. And at the same time, anytime you want, please contact Stephanie if you want to add something. So that way we could add something. I'm saying it should go. I apologize. It should go through the chair. But if you want to bring something up right now, please do. And if you're not, then you get let Stephanie know, and we'll
For
bring it
sunshine
up.
reasons, I prefer to go to
Stephanie.
Go through Stephanie.
All right. So I'm done.
Any other business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.